The trip was Tyler's idea, which honestly should have been the first warning sign. Tyler was the kind of guy who thought every bad decision became a better story later. The kind of person who saw no trespassing signs as suggestions instead of rules. When he found an unmarked camping area deep in the national forest online, he became obsessed with it immediately. No tourists, he kept saying. No crowded campsites, no RVs, no screaming kids, just pure wilderness. There were 4 of us all together, me, Tyler, Marcus, and Ethan. We'd all known each other since high school, and after months of miserable jobs and adult schedules slowly killing us, the idea of disappearing into the woods for a weekend actually sounded perfect. At first, the drive took almost 6 hours. By the time we reached the dirt road leading into the forest, it was already getting dark, and I remember noticing something strange almost immediately. No other cars, none, not at the entrance, not along the trail, nothing, just endless trees. Marcus noticed it too. This place looks dead. Tyler laughed from the driver's seat. That's the point. The deeper we drove, the worse the road became. Eventually, the trail narrowed so badly branches scraped both sides of the truck. Then finally, Tyler parked near a rusted wooden sign almost completely hidden by vines. Most of the lettering had faded away, but I could still make out 2 words burned into the wood. No whistling. Marcus laughed immediately. What kind of horror movie warning is that? Tyler grabbed his backpack. Probably some old hunting superstition, but for some reason. The sign bothered me. Something about the way the words were carved deep into the wood. Not painted, carved, like whoever made it wanted the message to stay there a very long time. The hike to the campsite took another 40 minutes. By then the forest had gone almost completely dark, and the deeper we walked, the quieter everything became. That's the part I keep remembering, the silence. No birds, no insects, nothing. Just the sound of our boots against dirt and branches snapping beneath our feet. Ethan finally noticed it too. Why is it so quiet out here? Nobody answered, because honestly we were all thinking the same thing. The campsite itself sat beside a small clearing surrounded by massive trees. It looked untouched. No fire pits, no trash, no signs anyone had camped there in years. Tyler loved it immediately. See, told you this place was perfect. We set up the tents just before sunset disappeared completely, and for a few hours everything actually felt normal. We made food, drank beer, talked about old high school stories around the campfire. The kind of stupid conversations people have when they're trying to feel young again. Eventually Marcus pulled out his phone and laughed. No signal. Tyler raised his beer. To civilization finally leaving us alone. The fire crackled softly between us. Darkness surrounded the clearing completely now. The trees looked almost black against the night sky. Then somewhere deep in the woods, someone whistled. Every conversation stopped instantly. The sound came from far away, a slow melody drifting through the trees, soft, almost beautiful, but something about it made my stomach tighten immediately. Because it sounded wrong somehow, not off-key, not distorted, just emotionless, like somebody imitating what human whistling should sound like. Marcus laughed nervously. Okay, that's creepy. Tyler stood up slightly looking toward the woods, probably another camper. Then the whistling stopped. Complete silence returned again. Ethan stared toward the trees uneasily. You guys hear how far away that sounded? Nobody answered, because we all had very far, at least that's what we thought. Tyler smirked suddenly, then whistled the melody back toward the forest. The second he finished, every sound in the woods disappeared. Even the wind, I felt cold instantly. Dude, Marcus said quietly, why would you do that? Tyler laughed. What, you think forest demons are gonna come kill us now? Nobody laughed with him, because deep down the silence after the whistle felt wrong, heavy, like something listening. Then a few seconds later, the same whistle echoed back through the trees, only now it sounded much closer. The smile slowly disappeared from Tyler's face. Marcus sat upright immediately. Nope, nobody moved. The whistle repeated again, closer, maybe 50 feet from camp now, and this time. I realized something horrifying. It wasn't copying Tyler's whistle exactly, it was slightly delayed. Like whatever made the sound was learning the melody as it repeated it. Ethan whispered quietly, "Guys," I looked toward him. His face had gone pale. He pointed slowly toward the tree line beyond the fire. At first I didn't see anything. Then the flames shifted in the wind, and for one horrible second I saw someone standing between the trees, tall, perfectly still, watching us. The fire popped loudly, the figure vanished instantly. Marcus stood up fast. "Did you guys see that?" Tyler grabbed the flashlight beside his chair immediately, probably another camper messing with us. But his voice didn't sound confident anymore. He aimed the flashlight toward the woods. Nothing, just trees, rainwater dripping from branches, darkness. Then from somewhere behind us, the whistle came again, much closer now. Almost directly beside camp, Marcus spun around immediately. "Okay, screw this." Tyler forced a laugh again, but I could see fear starting to crawl into his expression now. "Relax, somebody's screwing with us." Then Ethan said something quietly that made my blood run cold. "No." We looked toward him. His eyes stayed locked on the darkness beyond the tents. And when he spoke again, his voice barely sounded human. "There's more than one now." Nobody spoke after Ethan said that. The fire crackled softly between us while the darkness beyond camp suddenly felt alive. Watching, breathing, waiting. Tyler kept the flashlight aimed toward the trees, but the beam barely reached beyond the first few trunks before the forest swallowed the light completely. "Ethan," Marcus whispered, "what do you mean more than one?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. He just kept staring into the woods with this horrible expression on his face. Then finally he pointed slowly toward the left side of camp. "I heard another whistle over there." The second he finished speaking, a different whistle answered from the opposite side of the clearing. My stomach dropped instantly, because this one sounded slightly different, same melody, different pitch, like another voice trying to imitate the first one. Then the original whistle came again, closer. The two sounds started moving around us through the trees, slowly circling the campsite. Tyler lowered the flashlight slightly. "Okay, that's not funny anymore." Nobody argued with him, because at this point we all knew something was deeply wrong. Marcus grabbed another flashlight and stood up. "We should leave." Tyler looked toward the dark hiking trail behind us. "At night?" "Yes," Marcus snapped immediately. "Right now." And honestly, I agreed with him. Every survival instinct in my body screamed to get out of those woods immediately, but Tyler shook his head. "We'd get lost." The whistles stopped suddenly. Complete silence fell over the forest again. No wind, no insects, nothing. Then somewhere very close to camp, a branch snapped loudly. We all turned toward the sound at once. Tyler aimed the flashlight directly into the trees. For a second, nothing. Then the beam caught something pale disappearing behind a trunk. Not an animal, too tall, way too tall. Marcus whispered. "What the hell was that?" Nobody answered, because none of us wanted to say what we were all thinking. Tyler swallowed hard. "Everybody stay near the fire." The next hour felt endless. Nobody talked much anymore. We just sat around the flames listening, waiting. Every tiny sound in the woods made my chest tighten. Then around 1:40 a.m. the whistles returned, except this time they sounded human, not perfect copies anymore, real, and one of them laughed softly between notes. Marcus stood up immediately. "Nope, I'm done." He grabbed his backpack and flashlight. "I'm going back to the truck." Tyler stood up too. "In the dark, are you insane?" Marcus pointed toward the woods. "You want to stay here with whatever that is?" The whistle came again, much closer, almost directly behind Marcus now. He spun around, shining the flashlight wildly between the trees. Nothing there. Then suddenly, another whistle echoed far deeper in the woods, same melody, except this one sounded exactly like Marcus. Every ounce of color vanished from his face instantly. "You guys heard that right?" None of us answered. Because we had, the thing in the woods had copied his whistle perfectly. Then from somewhere beyond the trees, we heard Marcus's voice. "Guys," my blood turned to ice because Marcus was standing beside us, which meant the voice in the woods wasn't him. Tyler whispered, "Don't answer it." The voice came again, closer now. "Guys, help me." Marcus looked genuinely terrified now. "That's my voice." The thing beyond the trees laughed softly again, then another voice joined it, Ethan's voice. "Don't let it near the tents." Ethan stumbled backward instantly. Oh my God. The forest erupted with movement, branches snapping, leaves crunching, footsteps circling the campsite rapidly in every direction. Not one thing, multiple things running around us just beyond the firelight. The whistles became louder, faster, almost excited. Tyler grabbed a burning branch from the campfire and shouted into the darkness. "Back off!" Everything stopped immediately. Silence again. Then slowly a face appeared between the trees, not fully, just enough for the firelight to touch it. Pale skin, dark empty eyes, a smile stretched far too wide across its face. Then another face appeared farther back, then another. Watching silently from the woods, Marcus whispered, "We need to leave right now." Nobody argued anymore. We started packing as fast as possible, hands shaking, throwing gear into backpacks without caring what got left behind. Then Ethan suddenly froze beside the tents. "What is that?" We looked toward him and felt genuine terror hit all at once. Symbols, small stick figures hanging from the trees surrounding camp. Dozens of them, tied together with string and animal bones, fresh. They hadn't been there earlier. There was no way they could have been, not this many. Not all around us. One hung directly beside my tent entrance, and attached to it was a piece of fabric from Tyler's jacket. Tyler stared at it in horror. How did they get this? Nobody answered, because none of us wanted to admit the truth. Something had been near us long before we noticed it, watching, listening, getting close enough to touch us without being seen. Then suddenly Ethan turned toward the woods like he heard something. A strange expression crossed his face. Calm, almost hypnotized. "Ethan," I said carefully. He didn't answer. The whistle echoed softly through the trees again, but this time it sounded gentle, inviting. Ethan took one slow step toward the darkness. Tyler grabbed his arm immediately. "Dude." Ethan blinked suddenly like waking from a dream. "What? You were walking into the woods?" Ethan looked confused. Then afraid. "I thought I heard somebody calling me." Marcus whispered, "Don't listen to anything." The whistle started again, closer, faster, moving around us rapidly now. The trees beyond the firelight seemed darker somehow, deeper, like the forest itself was opening wider around camp. Then from somewhere behind us, a voice whispered softly, "Ethan." We all turned instantly, nobody there. Then the voice repeated again, perfectly mimicking Ethan's mother. "Come here, sweetheart." Ethan nearly collapsed because his mother had died 2 years earlier. Tyler grabbed him hard. "Don't move." The voice laughed softly from the woods. Then dozens of whistles answered it simultaneously from every direction. That's when we heard footsteps approaching camp slowly from the darkness. Heavy footsteps, human footsteps, and one by one tall pale figures began emerging between the trees surrounding us, smiling, whistling. Watching the fire, the figures surrounding the campsite didn't move like normal people. That's the first thing I remember clearly. They walked too slowly, too smoothly, like they were copying the idea of human movement instead of actually understanding it. The firelight barely touched them between the trees. Tall pale bodies, dark hollow eyes, wide smiles stretched unnaturally across their faces, and every single one of them kept whistling that same melody softly into the night. Marcus whispered, "Run." Nobody needed convincing anymore. We grabbed whatever we could and bolted toward the trail behind camp. The whistles exploded instantly behind us, not angry, excited, like the things in the woods had been waiting for us to move. Branches snapped everywhere around us as we sprinted through the darkness. Flashlights shook violently in our hands. Rain hammered through the trees overhead. And the whistling followed us from every direction, always close, always circling. At one point I looked beside me expecting to see Tyler. Instead, I saw one of the pale figures running silently through the woods parallel to us between the trees, smiling, keeping pace effortlessly. I nearly screamed. Marcus saw it too. "Don't look at them." The thing whistled louder immediately after he spoke. Then another answered farther ahead of us on the trail, cutting us off. We stopped hard, breathing heavily. The forest around us suddenly felt endless, wrong no matter which direction we looked. There were whistles. Tyler pointed toward a narrow slope descending deeper between the trees. This way. We ran downhill through mud and wet branches, slipping constantly in the darkness. Then suddenly Ethan disappeared behind us. At first we thought he fell. Tyler shouted his name immediately. No answer. We spun around, shining our flashlights wildly through the trees. Nothing, only darkness. Then somewhere far back in the woods we heard Ethan screaming. The sound lasted maybe 3 seconds before cutting off completely. Marcus started hyperventilating instantly. No, 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 Tyler shouted toward the trees. ETHAN, silence. Then softly a whistle echoed back, except now it perfectly copied Ethan's voice. Tyler's face drained of color. The forest repeated the whistle again, closer this time. Then Ethan's voice whispered softly between the trees. Guys, Marcus grabbed Tyler immediately. That's not him, but Tyler pulled away. We can't leave him, the voice came again, weak, crying now. Please help me. It sounded exactly like Ethan, every tiny detail perfect. And that's what terrified me most. Not hearing something inhuman, hearing something human perfectly. Tyler stepped toward the woods. I grabbed his jacket hard. Don't. He's alive. No, I whispered. Listen to the whistles. Tyler froze because I was right. Underneath Ethan's crying voice, other whistles still echoed softly around us. Like multiple things practicing the sound together, learning it. Then Ethan screamed again somewhere deeper in the forest. Tyler ran toward the sound before we could stop him. Tyler, he disappeared between the trees instantly. Marcus and I followed after him because at that point panic had completely destroyed rational thinking. The deeper we ran, the stranger the forest became. The trees looked taller somehow, thicker. The darkness between them almost solid, and everywhere we looked, those pale figures stood watching us silently, not attacking, just observing, whistling softly. Then suddenly we entered another clearing and stopped dead. Tyler stood frozen in the middle of it, staring downward. Marcus and I slowly approached beside him. Then we saw what he was looking at. Hundreds of stick symbols covered the clearing floor. Thousands maybe, hanging from branches, buried in mud, tied together with bones and animal teeth. And in the center of the clearing sat a pile of backpacks, old camping gear, tents, shoes, rotting clothing. Decades worth of abandoned belongings. My stomach dropped instantly. People had disappeared here before, a lot of people. Then Marcus noticed the camera, an old camcorder sitting partially buried beside the backpacks. Still blinking red, recording. Tyler picked it up slowly with trembling hands. The tape inside had already been playing, and when he turned the screen toward us, I felt every ounce of blood leave my body. The footage showed another group of campers standing in this exact clearing. 3 men, 2 women, laughing nervously around a fire. The timestamp read 1997. Then from the darkness beyond their campi, the same whistling began. Marcus whispered, "Oh my God," the footage continued shaking violently as the old campers panicked. Then suddenly one of them pointed toward the woods, and the camera captured something horrifying, tall pale figures standing silently between the trees. Exactly like the ones watching us now, the footage cut forward abruptly. Now the camera operator was running through the forest screaming, whistles echoing everywhere, people crying. Then finally the camera fell sideways into the mud. The final image showed one of the pale things leaning over the lens, smiling down into it. Its mouth slowly opened impossibly wide, and inside its throat hundreds of whistles echoed together. The recording ended. Silence filled the clearing. Then behind us someone whistled softly. We turned slowly. And my heart stopped, because Ethan stood at the edge of the clearing smiling at us, except something was wrong, terribly wrong. His smile stretched too wide, his eyes looked empty, and his movements too smooth, too calm like the things in the woods. Tyler whispered, "Ethan." The thing wearing Ethan tilted its head slowly. Then perfectly using Ethan's voice, it said, "You whistled back first." Every whistle in the forest suddenly stopped at once. Complete silence. Then all the pale figures emerged from the trees together, hundreds of them surrounding the clearing completely, watching, smiling. And somewhere deep in the woods beyond them, something much larger moved between the trees, something massive, something the others seemed afraid of. The thing wearing Ethan smiled wider, then softly whispered, "It heard you." The forest exploded with screaming whistles. Marcus grabbed my arm and ran. I followed without thinking. Behind us, Tyler screamed, a horrible scream, then suddenly cut off. I never saw him again. Marcus and I somehow found the trail near sunrise. I still don't know how. We reached the truck covered in mud and blood and drove for nearly 2 hours before either of us spoke. When we finally reached the highway, Marcus quietly asked me something I still think about every night. Did Ethan whistle before we lost him? I opened my mouth to answer, then stopped, because I realized something horrifying. I couldn't remember. Months later, search teams went looking for Tyler and Ethan. They never found them. Officially, they're still listed as missing. Marcus refuses to talk about that night anymore. He moved out of state 6 months later. As for me, I haven't gone camping since. But sometimes late at night, especially around 2 a.m, I hear whistling outside my apartment window. Soft, patient, waiting for me to answer back, and the worst part, every time I hear it now, the melody sounds more familiar, like I've started learning it too. If you are new here, subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story gives you a nightmare.